Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. Egypt last week, precisely on Monday, hosted a quartet meeting on the Palestinian-Israeli stalemate or the stalemate in peace negotiations in order to push forward those stalled negotiations and in order to make the Palestinian cause have the benefits of the circumstances that are ongoing in the Middle East. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has been keen himself to meet with the four foreign ministers who participated in the quartet. He was keen to meet with the Danish, the German and the French, plus of course Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, in order to follow up with the developments of the quartet. About the meeting that took place here in Egypt, or that was hosted by Egypt, the 11 points that came out of the foreign ministers, or the four foreign ministers meeting here. We'll be speaking about that and more in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, first let's have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi reiterated Egypt's firm stance on Sudan in light of the long historic popular ties between the two riparian nations. The president made those remarks as he received a member of the Sudanese Transitional Council, General Shamsuddin Kibesh, and his accompanying delegation. Kibeshi conveyed greetings from Chief of the Transitional Council to President al-Sisi in appreciation for Egypt's leading role in the Arab and African regions and its efforts for maintaining Sudanese security and stability during its transitional period. The meeting also reviewed the path of bilateral ties, regional issues in the African Horn and the Nile Basin, as well as border tensions between Sudan and Ethiopia. Egypt has condemned in the strongest possible words a bomb attack in northern Algeria, leaving 5 people dead and 3 others injured. In a foreign ministry statement, Egypt extended its support and condolences to Algeria and its people in such a cowardly incident. Algeria's interior ministry said that a roadside bomb went off overnight as a car drove by in the region of Tebisa, but it gave no further details on the attack itself. It added that the military was killed by troops in a neighboring region, but it was not immediately clear if the two incidents were related. Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune denounced the attack in Tebisa as a cowardly and barbaric act. Lebanese hunkered down indoors on Thursday on the first day of a strict 11-day lockdown imposed in a bid to slow down a sharp uptick in the novel coronavirus cases. The heightened restrictions, which include a 24-hour curfew until January 25th, come after some hospitals started to run out of beds to treat COVID patients. Under the new measures, non-essential workers are barred from leaving their homes and supermarkets will operate delivery services only. Israeli raids targeting armed depot and military positions in East Syria have killed 75 fighters in the deadliest such strikes since the start of the conflict. Syria said that Israel had bombarded Iranian-backed militia bases near the Iraqi border in the early hours of Wednesday and struck sites in Al-Bukamel, a border town on the Euphrates River, which lies in an important supply route, as well as areas in the province and city of Deir ez-Zor where the militants have a heavy presence. At least 14 Syrian forces, 16 Iraqi fighters and 11 Afghan members of the pro-Iranian Fatimid Brigade were among those killed, according to the British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Kuwaiti government ministers submitted their resignation en masse to Prime Minister Sheikh Sabah al-Khalid al-Sabah on Tuesday after lawmakers submitted a motion asking to question the premier. Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Hamad Jaber al-Ali al-Sabah submitted the resignation of all cabinet members in light of the current developments regarding the relation between the National Assembly and the government. Sheikh Sabah must submit the government's resignation to the OPEC member states ruler Amir Sheikh Nawaf al-Ahmad al-Sabah for approval. The resignation resignation took place only a month after the government was formed amid arguments with Parliament, whose 38 members backed a request to question the Prime Minister. Lawmakers accused the Prime Minister of violating the Constitution when forming the government and of failing to present a cabinet work program.
Right, welcome back. And as I said, that Egypt has hosted a quartet meeting between among Egypt, Jordan, Germany, and France, where they have been putting forward a vision for common work to push forward the stalemate in the Middle East peace process, the Palestinian-Israeli stalemate, and to find a way in order for the Arab nations to fulfill their aspiration and benefit from the emerging peace in the region. Before we start with our discussion, let's first have this quick report and then we'll come back for more discussion.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry asserted that Egypt's stance regarding the Palestinian cause has not changed and that Egypt still supported the two-state solution based on the 1967 borders. In a press conference Shoukry held with his counterparts from Jordan, France, and Germany following their meeting on ways to revive the peace process in the Middle East, the foreign minister said that Egypt welcomed any effort to find a fair solution to the Palestinian issue. Foreign Minister Shoukry said that the quartet meeting discussed the revival of a serious peace talks process. During the press conference, Shoukry said that Egypt understood the pivotal role of the United States in the Middle East. He also referred to the important role of the United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, in providing services to Palestinian refugees, especially amid the coronavirus pandemic. Shoukry called on donors to donate to UNRWA, which serves at least 5 million Palestinian refugees, to enable the organization to continue offer its services during this critical time. France's Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian said that the next meeting of the Quartet Committee would be held in Paris to continue consultation regarding ways to boost the peace process. Le Drian added that restoring and establishing relations between Arab countries and Israel was a positive development that supports stability in the Middle East, referring to the recent agreements to normalize relations between Israel and Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Morocco. On the other hand, the French Foreign Minister said that Israel must respect the past agreements it had signed. Le Drian also called on the United States to play a role in resolving the Palestinian issue. The French minister's statement comes days before American President-elect Joe Biden will be sworn in, along with his administration. Germany's Foreign Minister Heiko Maas said during the press conference that the quartet meeting focused on steps that should be taken to rebuild confidence between the Palestinians and Israelis in order to encourage them to return to the talks. He also said that the quartet meeting agreed to speak with officials in the European Union and the United States to revive dialogue. Germany is committed to supporting the UNRWA financially. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman al-Safadi stressed the urgency to move quickly in order to stop Israel from expanding and building illegitimate settlements in the 1967 territories. He added that matters are deteriorating in the peace process between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Earlier, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the ministers of the Quartet Committee, where they discussed the latest developments in the peace process. During the meeting held earlier in Cairo, the four ministers agreed on 11 provisions in order to revive the peace process, at the top of which is the immediate return to talks between the Palestinians and Israelis. The 11 provisions included the commitment to the two-state the 1967 borders and UN Security Council resolutions.
Right, welcome back. And as we are speaking about the quartet meeting, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Ali Al-Hifni, former to discuss the meeting. Good afternoon to you, Ambassador Hafni.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. And we're speaking about the Quartet meeting that took place last week, and the backdrop, or that comes at the backdrop of some of the developments in the region. You're reading to that Quartet meeting, you're reading to the participants of the Quartet and the timing it was held.
It was about time that we reactivate the Quartet. The meeting comes following several contacts that took place between Egypt and the other members of the Quartet. Egypt is taking the initiative to call for a meeting of the Quartet in Egypt in such a way that we could discuss how we could seize, or the best seize the opportunity offered in the light of several regional developments and international developments, in particular with regard to the change that we witness or will witness in a few days at the White House. And we are attempting as Egypt to push forward all efforts, be it with regard to the Palestinian question, which is the number one concern for the Arab world and for Egypt in particular, and also other regional developments to seize the opportunity to push forward those efforts that attempted to re-establish order and recover stability in the region as much as we can. So we are with this political will to reactivate peace process, to encourage the two parties, Palestinians and Israelis, to come back to the negotiating table with the consent of Europe and, of course, the new American administration that's going to take over, or it's taking over in the United States.
Right. You spoke about the factors that are ongoing worldwide and regional. We're speaking here about Israeli normalization in a way or another that took place, and that would attack on the peace or the Palestinian-Israeli peace process. How do you think that this would, or that the process would really benefit from the atmosphere that is ongoing in the region, and how far do you think are both are ready for starting or kick-starting such negotiations once again?
Well, this is what I meant with the regional and the international developments and the new wave that we are witnessing in the region. So we are trying to convince different parties, especially the ones directly concerned with the Palestinian question, Palestinians and Israelis, to seize that opportunity to attempt to re-establish those contacts, to come back to the negotiations that had ceased since some time now, in such a way that we could seize that opportunity. There is a window of hope that would convince the two parties to come back to the negotiating table. Now, the new development also, which we came across yesterday, is the call or the act issued by President Mahmoud Abbas with regard to the coming elections in the Palestinian territories. And this adds also to the different developments that have taken place or are taking place and based on the role that Egypt has always played with regard to the peace process, that we take the initiative to reactivate the Quartet and to push forward with the help of our friends overseas to convince Palestinians and Israelis to come back to the negotiating table and, if possible, to reach an understanding with regard to the coming period, how we're going to push forward those peace talks.
If we're speaking about the sticking point that were always the hinder of any progress to the peace negotiations, are we speaking about a change in position on the ground? I mean, here, yes, the Palestinian president has announced that there will be new elections, but on the other hand, the Israeli side is continuing on with expanding its illegal settlements. So how far do we need to see a balance here, and how would Israel understand that peace with the Palestinians would be in their benefit as it would be in the benefit of the Palestinians and the whole region?
Well, it's very good that you have raised that question. Sometimes the situation becomes so gloomy, and the attempt to revive those peace talks are almost impossible. And this is exactly the time when you should strive in such a way that you could encourage other parties to come back to the negotiating table. Of course, taking into consideration all those developments that have taken place and are still taking place regionally and internationally. You cannot leave the Palestinian question, which is the number one concern for all of us in the region, unattended and have lost the momentum due to several reasons. You cannot leave it unattended. You have to attempt, bearing in mind those developments regionally and internationally, to seize that opportunity and to push forward in such a way that you could bring back those people to the negotiating table. And with mainly the role of Egypt in this respect. Because if there is any party that could take initiatives, that could make that effort, that could succeed in inviting the people to come back to their usual contacts and interaction, actually here in Egypt, is the country that could take such initiatives and push forward for that goal, bringing back the people to the negotiating table. And as we are attempting to do in Libya, as we are attempting to do as far as the situation in the East Mediterranean and so on, we are complementing that aim mainly to bring back stability, the lost stability and the lost order in our region, and especially that the region has turned into a very fragile region since the events of 2011 and later.
Before I go into Egypt's role, because Egypt's role has extended over the history in this particular cause, but before I say that, let me here discuss the choice of Germany and France in terms of Europe instead of the American role. How do you view that exchange, and would a new U.S. administration change the course of the developments in this cause, or are we seeing no change from the American side? How do you read the upcoming scenario?
Let's be realistic. We wouldn't be able to make that effort or achieve that goal without the role of the European Union, and especially the main players within Europe. And also to seize that opportunity with the coming of a new administration, the Democrats in the White House, and engage them also in that process. You need the support of the international community, and the main players that have played a role in the past and are subjected to play or replay that role in the coming periods. We have all an interest in pushing forward the issue of the re-establishment of those contacts and those interactions between Palestinians and Israelis, and seizing those regional and international developments in such a way that we could make a step forward. We could advance the cause of peace. We could add to those general efforts that we and others are exerting in the region in such a way that we could re-establish order and stability. We cannot do this without the important role that could be played and should be played by Europe and by the United States.
Then why, or how do you view the European role in that, and why Germany and France?
Well, the two countries are the main players in Europe. With Palestinian, they entertain excellent relations, be it with the Israelis or the Americans, and important because it connects those. First, it deepens the understanding with regard to how to approach the peace process in the coming period, because all the parties, members of the Quartet, they have an interest in doing so. And how these moments and those developments and also not just deepen the understanding, but to coordinate our efforts. That attempted to achieve without the role of Egypt and Jordan, and vice versa also. It's important to coordinate with the firms, with the European and with the new administration. We want to succeed the two parties to come back to negotiating bearing in mind times have changed, circumstances have changed, and we all are supposed to take these developments into consideration as we are attempting to bring back the two parties to the negotiating table.
Speaking about the role of Egypt, and we've seen here Egypt hosting this quartet meeting. We've seen of the president to meet with the foreign ministers participating in the quartet. Of course, our foreign minister Sameh Shoukry, but also the Jordanian and the German. From your point of view, how do you view leadership to meet with the participants of the quartet, and how does this reflect on the going or on developing the cause?
I should recall here a statement made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that was about 3 years or more, when he has called upon the Israeli government and people to consider seriously pushing forward the peace process and joining us with us and others to achieve peace. And he has given the example of the peace process in the state of Israel. And he said that for over 30 years now, the peace process has stood in spite of all challenges, and we have succeeded in keeping this important treaty or agreement between the two sides. And this should inspire us to make that step forward and to push it further. And that was the main goal of Egypt when we were engaged in the Camp David agreement. It was not only about the Egyptian-Israeli relations, but it was mainly also about the Palestinian question and how to end the suffering of the Palestinian people and to close chapter in a manner that will be rewarding for all the parties, in primo the Palestinian people. So, in fact, we have still that conviction that Israelis have to take this lesson of history in consideration and have to seize those new developments in the region in such a way that could push all in a collective manner forward our potential in our region, because it will be worthy for everybody to move from a stage where there are tensions and differences to a new era of coexistence and cooperation, which is rewarding for our region, all of us, without any exception. So it's quite obvious that Egypt has to take that initiative, to take the lead in such an attempt. It's important, of course, for President Fattah al-Sisi to receive the other members of the quartet and to explain what is our perception as Egypt for the coming period with regard to the Palestinian question and how we could work together collectively and with the new administration coming to the White House in a such way that we could push forward the peace process or recovering the peace process, which is suffering out of stagnation for some time.
Right. Finally here, if I may ask you about what do you expect, or what should we be expecting from if there would be any resumption to the peace talks, hopefully, what should we be expecting, and why should both sides reconsider, particularly the Israeli one, reconsider what or the efforts that are done for this?
What we are working on and interested in doing is to recover the lost momentum, to revive the peace process, bring the relations back to the negotiating table with the coordination of the main players worldwide, and to attempt to make a difference and to get rid of this stalemate that we all suffered from for long years so far. So we are just trying to create a momentum to bring back Palestinian Israelis to their communications, to their negotiations, with the help of especially Europeans and Americans. This is what we are trying to create a new momentum for the peace process. And I believe that with the help of the Europeans and
Yes.
Hopefully with the new American administration, we could make a step forward in this direction.
Right, remains to be seen, and hopefully that would be the scene in this upcoming stage. Ambassador Ali Hafni, former assistant foreign minister, thank you so much for being with us and for your input here. And I guess that takes us to the end of this episode of our program Arab Affairs. Next Saturday would be another important Arab file. Until then, it's goodbye.